Right. Hear ye.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Jim, we appreciate you, Major. We're going to ask District 6, if they will, to begin us with invocation and pledge.
If you'd bow with me, please. Heavenly Father, as we humbly approach your throne, we just thank you for the opportunity to serve this great county. Heavenly Father, we pray as we deliberate the business tonight that we'll do so with your precepts in mind, and Heavenly Father, that we'll do what's best for our county and our community. Heavenly Father, we ask that you bless us, bless this great county, and it's in your Son's holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated.
All right, we ready to?
Let me say, first of all, welcome to, got a good crowd tonight. We appreciate you being here. We will entertain you, I promise. So welcome, and we look forward to some presentations on some important issues. Let me say again, congratulations to the commissioners who had no opposition, who will be coming back to sit on this body next term. I was mistaken. There are 7 of those, as opposed to 5 in my email. So I recognize those 7. There also will be 2 new members who have no opposition who will sit in District 3. So there is 9 folks out of 24 already decided. And I wish the best of luck to the rest of you guys who are running in your races. So thank you very much, and we'll move forward with the agenda. I'm sorry, roll call.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. If you'll take your handsets, everybody press yes, and it will stop you right there. Everybody press yes, please. Good. Mr. Chairman, you have 20 present, you have 4 absent. Roll is called. You do have a quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. And now we're moving to 5, approve of the agenda.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion and second on the agenda. Any discussion? Favor the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Improvement of the minutes of the previous meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and second on the minutes. Any discussion? Favor that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. That motion carries as well. Item number 7 is unfinished business. Report of standing committees, planning.
No unfinished business.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Fiscal review.
No unfinished business.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And nominating.
No unfinished business.
Thank you also, Mr. Chair. B is a report of special committees. Are there any reports? Audit Committee. Mr. Bob Duncan is recognized as the chair of the Audit Committee, and he will come forward for his report. Welcome, Mr. Duncan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Audit Committee met. You have a copy of the Audit Committee report in your agenda package, but 5 of the 7 members attended the meeting along with Mayor Porter, Director of Schools King, School CFO McReynolds, and Steve Reeder, the Audit Manager, and Anita Scarlett, the Audit Supervisor for the state, along with Mr. Herron from the Herald Citizen. The audit report for the year ended June 30, 2021 was unmodified, but there was one audit finding. And we discussed that in detail with the school officials and including their response and plan for corrective action in the future. The audit also found that all prior audit findings had been corrected to the auditor's satisfaction. There is one new accounting standard that will affect Putnam County this year, but it should have a minimal effect. The lease accounting standard, which has been kicked down the road for 2 or 3 times, finally got to the end of the road and will be in effect for this year. It should have a minimal effect on the county because basically everything that's leased now has to be capitalized. It should affect the county primarily for copiers and maybe 1 or 2 vehicles. The committee also recommended that the commission review its current capitalization policy to determine if it's still appropriate. And I know that that item was is in your agenda for tonight. Unless there's any question, Mr. Chairman, that concludes the audit committee report.
Any questions for Mr. Duncan? I'd like to thank the audit committee for a job well done as always, and for the hard work that all of the department heads have done to try to keep this audit as clean as possible. So let's give them a hand and give our appreciation. Anything else, Mr. Duncan?
No, sir.
All right. Moving along, then we'll hear from the redistricting committee.
That's me also.
That would be also Chairman Duncan. So, yes.
Hold on just a second. Let me find this particular item.
Oh, come on. Go off the cuff.
The committee met again at the end of January based on our report to the commission in November, I believe. The discussion related to the current private act, which states that the school board shall consist of 6 members, 1 from every 2 commission districts. This is what caused the committee to be unable to recommend any alternatives or the commission to be able to adopt any kind of a redistricting plan. So at the meeting at the end of January, the committee and County Attorney Jones came up with 3 primary recommendations. 1, that the existing private act be repealed. There is wording in one of the sections that we recommended rewording, and that will be presented to you at the next meeting probably, that instead of, we gave it the most flexibility that was possible, and it says the school board shall consist of the number as determined by the county commission from time to time. That gives you the absolute most flexibility. But we also have in language that references the state law, which I believe, a minimum of 2 and a maximum of 9. Is that right, Jeff?
Correct, yeah.
Okay, Jeff agrees. That would be the second recommendation. The third recommendation, there are some other sections in the current private law which probably also need to be updated, but were beyond the scope of the redistricting committee and would probably require discussion with the Board of Education to make sure. But that's the report of the final report of the redistricting committee. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Duncan? Yes, sir.
Is there a problem with the current number of school board members that's creating a conflict that we need to change?
There's no problem with that, but you're absolutely locked in to that number. It specifies there shall be 6 school board members, 1 from every 2 county commission districts.
Yeah,
Mr.
the
Jones?
county commissioner, the way that the private act is written right now, is that there is one school board member from 2 adjoining commissioner districts. That's how the school board districts are comprised. Problem with that is that from a redistricting standpoint, that locks you in to having 12 commissioner districts. So if you're going to give some flexibility to the redistricting process in the next 10 years, then you're going to have to change your private act.
Okay, so I guess that leads in the next question. Is there a problem with the current 12 districts in the county that's not functioning well that we need to consider changing the number of districts?
No, I don't think there's anything that's a problem. I mean, that probably is better asked of the chairman. But I think the question is does this give you as a county commission the maximum amount of flexibility during the redistricting process? And as I understood, that was the charge of the committee. Am I correct in that, Mr.
That
Chairman?
is correct, Mr. Jones. We're not saying that there's a problem. We're just saying you're locked into that forever unless you want to update the private act.
And we've been under these rules for what, 30 years? About 1990, I believe.
I think that's correct. Yeah,
1993, that's correct.
93, yes.
Okay.
Approximately.
Thank you.
Mr. Wilson?
Yeah, I got a question. We've got 6.
Okay.
There was something that had been mentioned about possibly doing an at-large to make that an uneven number.
That's not permitted based on my understanding of the existing state law.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else with a question?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Duncan. And again, I'd like to thank the redistricting committee, worked hard, spent a lot of hours, so as well as Michelle and the election commission as well. So thank you very much for that effort. All right, any other unfinished business? Quarterly reports, road fund, school fund, general, county general, debt service, solid waste, sanitation, parks and rec, self-insurance. Any questions about any of those? Hearing none, we'll move forward. New business in action. Item A is a report of the standing committees, and we'll begin with planning.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Planning Committee recommends approval for the Sheriff's Office to declare K-9 Cage as surplus and donate her to her former handler.
Motion to approve.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion on the K-9? Favor the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. And motion carries.
Item B recommends approval of the list of vehicles, equipment to be sold via internet public auction for the maintenance department as follows. And you have
Motion to approve.
Second.
We've got a motion and a second. Any discussion on the equipment or vehicles? Once again, you favor that motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries.
Item C, Planning Committee recommends approval of the list of vehicles, equipment to be sold via internet public auction for the rescue squad as follows. There again, you have the list.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion on those vehicles? All right, favor that motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. And the motion carries.
That concludes planning.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Fiscal review.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item A, Fiscal Review Committee recommends approval of budget amendments to the County General Fund, and I so move.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion on County General? Mr. Clerk?
All right, seeing none, if you take your handsets, if you favor the motion, vote yes. If you not favor the motion, vote no. Everyone, please vote, and it will stop you right there. All votes are in. Anyone wish to change their vote anywhere? All right. Give you just a second, Mr. Chair. Good, thank you, sir. Next item.
Mr. Chairman, item D, we have a typo, so I will read that out as it should read. Fiscal Review Committee recommends approval of budget amendments to the American Rescue Plan Fund, and I so move.
Second.
We've got a motion and a second. Let me just for the audience, if I can, anytime there's money expended from the county, it must go through a roll call vote. That's why we're doing what we're doing. So just for your information, if it doesn't affect fiscal responsibility of the county, then that's not necessary. These are. So we will, Mr. Clerk, take another vote.
All right. If you take your handsets, you favor the motion, vote yes. If you're not in favor of the motion, vote no. Everyone, please vote. All votes are in. Anyone wish to change their vote anywhere? All right. Y'all are doing great. Give me just a second. All right, good deal.
Item C.
I'm sorry, 20, did I announce it even last time? 20 voted for, 4 are absent, motion carries. Last one was 20 voted for, 4 was absent, motion carries. Thank you, sir. Sorry about that.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk.
I must be.
Item C, Fiscal Review Committee recommends approval of budget amendments to the General Purpose School Fund, and I so move.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion on general purpose school? Mr. Clerk.
All right, seeing none, take your handsets. If you favor the motion, vote yes. If you're not in favor of the motion, vote no. Everyone, please vote. All votes are in. Anyone wish to change their vote anywhere? All right, you're doing great tonight, guys. Mr. Chairman, you have 20 voting yes, 4 absent, motion carries.
Item D, Fiscal Review Committee recommends approval for the county to apply for a $450,000 health grant for our parks with no match required, and I so move.
Second.
Got a motion and a second, and again for the crowd, this is not an expenditure of money. It's only an application to apply for a grant. That does not require that we voice vote or roll call vote. So we'll do that as a voice vote. Any discussion about the grant? Favor the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. That motion carries.
Item E, Fiscal Review Committee recommends approval of the changes to the Putnam County Asset Policies and Procedures, and I so move.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion on the change? Favor the motion signify by saying aye. I'm sorry, I back up. Mr. Cassidy, I apologize.
Randy, quickly give us a 2-minute or less synopsis of the changes.
Most of the changes are changing from county exec to county mayor. And then on the one asset limit, we changed it from 1,000 to 10,000 after we went through a thing with audit trying to get all the assets together, and the 1,000 was just too low on an asset. So that's the only changes. Highlighted in yellow, everything highlighted in yellow.
Any other questions? I'm sorry, Mr. Cassidy, apologize. Favor the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion carries.
Item F, Fiscal Review Committee recommends approval of the joint Martin Creek Water Project with Jackson County, and I so move.
Second.
Motion and a second. I see Mr. Porter has taken the mic.
I was going to give you a
Yes, sir.
little,
Absolutely. Please do.
little summary of what we're doing. The TDEC projects that we've been talking about, the almost 4.9 million that they're going to allow us to apply for in conjunction with either one of the water utility districts or one of the cities. The final rules just came out last week. If we partner with someone like Jackson County, the match that we have to pay is only 10%. The state pays 90%. These are non-competitive grants, so we won't be competing against anybody else on this 4.9 million. So the first one that I want to bring to you, we did a survey that we mailed out about 571 letters to people that we were pretty sure didn't have access to public water. We did an online survey. Those people went on our website and they filled out a little short survey. Did you want water or not? We've had about 209, I think, respond so far, which is not bad for the first go-round. 92% of those said they wanted water. We've only had 17 that didn't want water of those folks. We're sending out another letter, a second letter now, to try to get the rest of the folks to do the survey. And then once we do a project like this one that I'm bringing to you tonight, we will, anybody that lives on those roads involved in that project, we will try to reach out to them personally, just like we do on a CDBG grant, to make sure we know exactly how many people on that road will take the water if we do the project. So this is just kind of the first step in doing that. If you don't know how the county's divided up, we have 4 water utility districts, and we have the cities, each one of them own water utility districts. The center part is Cookville, and then you have a part up there between Allgood and Monterey on Brotherton Mountain that there is no water utility district for that area currently. So that's going to be one of our projects that we're going to be looking at in the future. There's 4 primary areas, and those are the red boxes that do not have access to public water. The Martin Creek area on your far left, and down in the Silver Point area, and then up between Allgood and Monterey on the Brotherton area, and then the bottom right is the Calf Killer area. Most all of those people have wells and springs. Yes, sir.
Are you looking to add another utility district or expand the current ones?
I'd love to see the current ones expand, but that'll be a decision that Allgood, Monterey, and Cookville will have to make as to whether they want to expand their territory, or we will try to do something with one of them. There is a West Overton County comes into the edge of Putnam County up in that area, so I haven't talked to them yet to see if they might be interested, but the goal would be is to get everybody to expand and make up the area. Yes, sir.
Would anyone be forced to take water who doesn't want it, or would they be forced to allow utility lines through their property if they don't want it there?
No, sir. All the utility lines will be on the county right of way, unless they run into an area that's not possible, and then they'd have to get an easement from the customer or the resident of that property, owner of the property, before it could happen. So, and if anybody doesn't want water, they don't have to take it.
Okay. Commissioners, please use your handsets if you
They
don't.
can't see, Mr. Chairman.
I'm sorry?
The map is up there.
Okay. I can, I'm sorry, I can see. But I'll recognize Mr. Neal.
Yeah, Mayor, I was going to ask you if these people, let's say that they do want water, does the grant cover taking the water? Let's say they're 200 feet off the road. Does the grant pay for installing the water line to their residents?
It will go along the road, and wherever the water meter is set, it'll be their responsibility to run it from the water meter to their house, just like it is anybody else in Putnam County that gets water.
But they'd keep the water meter up close to the right-of-way, probably.
They're going to try to keep it on county right-of-way along the road. As you'll see when we look at the project, it's going to follow Martin Creek Road from one end back up to the bottom of the mountain. So if they don't live close to the road, that'll be up to them. The utility only has to the water meter, and it's your responsibility from the water meter to the house.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Wiseman?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a quick, I guess, you probably don't have a full answer on it yet, but do we have any kind of rough estimate on how many of our citizens here in Putnam County this could potentially positively impact? And also, have you heard anything about Jackson County? Maybe how many are affected by the completion of get water from this as well?
Well, it's hard to tell how many people will take it and how far the money will go. And that's going to be the key. I mean, we know we don't have enough in these funds to do all these folks. The terrain's too rough. They're very rural. The price of running water lines is expensive. So it's a little early to tell right now. I'll try to give you an estimate on each one of these projects as to how many people I think it will cover. But each one of them will be separate as we go forward.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Mr. Bennett?
Yeah, typically in the utility district, the customer pays for the tap fee and setting of the meter. Will these funds pay for that cost? So it'd be in their best interest to take the water now, save that tap fee.
You're correct, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Tays?
The area in Calf Killer, it's always been told to me that the Monterey City couldn't run the water line down there because of the rough terrain. So if they got water of any kind, where would it come from? Would it be easier to come from Catoosa?
Yes, correct.
But then in one place, they would, if they went up, they'd have to cross the river.
You're exactly right. White County's utility district could come up, Catoosa could come over, and talking to some of those people on Calf Killer at some point back in several years ago, there was talk about Catoosa or one of the utility districts coming in the back way, and for whatever reason, that just, they didn't apply for the grant or just.
Too much.
Yeah. So this may be the opportunity that we have to do something like that, to bring it in the back way to be able to get to them, because you're right, coming off Calf Killer Mountain's just
It's
not an
awful.
issue. Yeah.
And
I mean,
a
it's
lot
not
of
a
those people do
option.
need water down in there. They have wells, but they've hit sulfur.
It is
So
sulfur.
a lot of them, I think, would take
If you look, the green dots on the far right below Monterey, those are all the people on Calf Killer that want water. We had probably the best response out of that area of any one that we surveyed.
If I may, Mayor, the motion that we have on the table is concerning a match with Jackson County. There's going to be a lot of discussion as we move forward in these other areas, but that's not the motion tonight. So I'd like to keep us directed, if I can, for the sake of time. The motion again is to partner with Jackson County. My question is there any expenditure at this point from either county as it relates to this motion that's on the floor? All the motion is to partner with them, to agree to partner for that project. Am I right, Mayor?
And to hire an engineer to proceed with the process, so there will be funds tied to it.
Okay, so we will have a roll call vote as it relates for that expenditure. Does anybody have any questions of the mayor on this motion? That's what we're discussing, folks, and I don't want to be, but we do need to hold the feet to the fire. Anybody have a discussion on this motion? Mr. Robinson, is it?
I was talking there, Monterey goes down Mill Creek,
Yes, sir.
so it could go on to Calf Killer that way.
It could,
You
sir.
probably talked about that. I can't remember exactly how far it goes down, but it does go down Mill Creek, and it's not 4-284.
That's right. So that's what I was talking about. We got to come in a back way, either White County that way, come the other way. So I haven't got to that project because this one was, we started on it first, but the one on Calf Killer will be the next one I'll be looking at.
Okay, thanks.
Any
Mr. Chairman,
discussion? I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor.
That's okay. I'm just going to show what the line would be. What we're looking at is a 6-inch line that would run up and down Martin Creek Road where there is no water whatsoever other than wells and springs. We'd be partnering with Jackson County Utility District and Jackson County. Double Springs Utility District and Baxter City are all involved in this. So there's a lot of players. We got to work out all the details, but until we get the engineers to move forward with it and get us down to some greater details, what I'm asking you to do tonight is to prove this as a project, allow me to hire an engineer to proceed with the project. If we get everything coming together and everything works out, is to proceed to apply for the TDEC grant for this project in the amount of $1.8 million out of that $4.9 million that we have in TDEC funds to apply for.
Yes, sir.
My question is for the fire chief. Is a 6-inch water line enough to support a fire hydrant at some point in the future?
Use your mic, Jonathan.
But typically, yes.
Okay.
I got one question, it's a two-part
Let me
question.
answer that question. The Regional Planning Commission requires 6-inch, that's it. So
Okay.
any new development, it is acceptable for 6-inch water line. I hope that answers your question. Anything lower than that, that has to be a variance. Yes, who was that? Yes, sir, Mr. Darren.
Okay, the grant that you're ordering, you mentioned earlier that you're going to be hiring a engineer.
Mm-hmm.
Is Jackson County and Putnam County sharing the cost of this?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's question one. Number two, are those funds coming out of this grant to pay for that engineer?
Yes, sir.
Good deal. Thanks.
Great questions. Anything else? All right, Mr. Clerk, let's vote for that.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you check your handsets, if you favor the motion, vote yes. If you do not favor the motion, vote no. Everyone, please vote. And it will automatically stop you right there. All votes are in. Anyone wish to change their vote anywhere? All right. Chairman, I have 20 voting yes, 4 absent. Motion carries.
Item G, Fiscal Review Committee recommends approval of the broadband resolution, and I so move.
Second. Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Mr. Porter, anything you want to say about the broadband?
have questions.
Any questions? Seeing none, in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. And the motion carries.
Item H, Fiscal Review Committee recommends approval of a request from trustee Freddie Nelson to appoint Jeff Jones as delinquent tax attorney for the 2020 real and personal property taxes in accordance with TCA 67-5-2404. And I so move.
Second.
We got a motion and a second, and was that correction correct? It is 2020, not 2019 as the agenda says.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, I should have announced that correction before I made that, but
Okay,
yes, that
just
is
want
correct.
to make sure it is 2020. Is that right, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Okay, great, awesome. And we have a motion and a second with any discussion. Favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. And opposed, no. Motion carries.
Item I is hear from Baxter City Mayor John Martin.
All right, we're glad to have with us tonight Baxter Mayor John Martin, and we will, or Mr. Porter, if you want to introduce him, however you want to handle that, if you'll come to the podium, we'll be happy to listen. You got 30 seconds. I'm just kidding.
Do we need a drum roll?
You can do that.
Say, here's John.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Porter, and thank you, Commission, for allowing us to come and make a presentation. We put a map, and the map is pretty self-explanatory. The growth that we're having in Baxter is phenomenal. We've got over 400 projects that's already been approved. We've got 1,600 on the board that they're waiting for us to get our sewer in shape where they can develop also. We can do more than 400 now. We are now in the process of cameraing our complete system, and we know we've got a terrible problem as far as infiltration of water into our system. And when that happens on rainy days, we have more water going into our system than we can handle. Tom Bennett, which is our engineer, has got a presentation. He's got all the numbers from all the cameras. He's got videos of different gushers that's running into our system now. But Portobello is getting ready to open in 2023, May of 2023. We're also working with more economic development, which that is going to need more sewer capacity. But everything that we're doing now is just going to help our system, and we've got to have that for the growth. The growth that we're having is really to the benefit of the city of Baxter. It's also to the benefit of the county. When you take just 1,000 homes, that's over $1 million a year that's coming back to the county in tax. So if we do the 2,000 homes, really you're going to get a lot of money, which is going to help our schools. It's going to help everything in the county. So we're going to gain from this. We're in the process of letting the bid on a $3 million project for our sewer plant. We're doing that. We know down the road that we'll have to do more. We're willing to do that, but I'm going to keep it short. I've been threatened, but Mr. Bennett, and I've threatened him also, told him to keep it short. So he's going to give you the presentation of what really is happening in our system now.
Thank you all, and John asked me to start my stopwatch, because those that know me know that I have a tendency to run long, and so I promise you I'm going to move quickly. I'm going to attempt to summarize about 6 years of work that we've been working on in the city of Baxter. We get awfully excited when we talk about sewer, and that's the focus tonight, but what we get more excited about is to assist cities in helping them accomplish their goals. And Baxter has demonstrated a goal to continue to grow. And I think back to about 4 years ago when John and I were talking about a massive industry coming to Baxter, and it seemed like a pretty daunting task. And now we look 4 years later, and Portobello North America is building their headquarters in Baxter, and it's just been a lot of work. So I really want to go through just 5 major topics tonight. And again, I'm going to do this very quickly. If you want to stop me, please feel free to go ahead and ask any questions. But we're going to talk about Baxter's growth patterns, problems and issues that Baxter has with their sewer system, work efforts that the city has accomplished, proposed projects and the funding request, and other projects of importance in Baxter. Really, for sake of understanding, Baxter is a small town. They have 630 customers today, maybe 1 or 2. They're growing pretty quickly. There may be 632 by now. Baxter has approved 418 additional lots, residential equivalents in the city as of today by the Planning Commission. And currently, there are 1,606 residential units that are in some phase of either pre-planning or pre-development. That total new project count is 2,024 residences with a total customer count, if all these projects happen, of 2,654. And this does not include several economic development type projects that are currently in discussion in Baxter. The unique thing about Baxter is they are small, so they have a small sewer system. They have 72,000 feet of sewer. In schemes of sewer systems, that's probably good news, because most cities that we would think about, bigger than Baxter, would have hundreds of thousands of feet of sewer. So the task to rehabilitate those systems would be very, very significant. And it is in Baxter, but again, we're talking about a small number of footage. Aging infrastructure in the city with their sewer pipes and their manholes, it's in disrepair and needs replacement. And as a result, Baxter is experiencing infiltration and inflow. And what that fundamentally means is that rainwater and creek water is getting into the sewer system. So what that does is, from a very practical perspective, is it consumes the capacity of the system. So it's in conflict with the idea of growth, if that makes sense. So a simple example at the bottom of the slide, you'll see in March 2021, during that month there was 12.35 inches of rainfall. Baxter sold 2,800,000 gallons of water to its customers, and 13,370,000 gallons came into the sewer plant. So in a perfect world, you would have less water coming into your sewer plant than what you sold, if that makes sense, because we consume a bit of water. And so you can see an order of magnitude. So the amount of infiltration and inflow that came in during that specific month was 10,567,529 gallons. So it's a significant amount of rainfall, creek water, various things that we refer to as infiltration inflow that come into a system. So fundamentally, again, I want to say that this is in conflict to the idea of growth when you're talking about sewer systems. So just about every city in the state of Tennessee has some form of this. It's normal as part of the process. But I think when we're talking about this order of magnitude, we could certainly say it's significant. I think we could say 2 main topics. Baxter cannot meet the full development demand that I shared with you at the beginning, while at the same time experiencing this much infiltration and inflow. They must aggressively pursue rehabilitation of their system to accommodate for these additional development demands. Baxter has been operating under what's called a corrective action plan with Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation since 2012. In 2018, Baxter began to make significant investments towards what we would call investigative measures to understand where their problem was. So just briefly going through the 4 main things that they have accomplished prior to now, which is they've smoke tested their entire system, they've mapped their system, They've inspected all their manholes and they've completed high priority repairs, and this was done under the corrective action plan. And so I think the point here is that Baxter has and continues to make investments into their system. This is, these simple efforts you see here are in the orders of hundreds of thousands of dollars. Baxter is currently underway with completing CCTV, which is camera investigation of their entire system. We have completed 40,000 feet of the total of 72,000 feet to date. So we have a good picture of what the problem is. And just some highlights, about 50% of the system is composed of clay pipe. And so clay pipe is certainly probably the largest contributor to why we get infiltration inflow due to age and due to cracking and things like that, issues at the joints. About 50% of the system that we've investigated is in poor condition or worse, and 15% is in critical condition. We've discovered 22 gushers, and I know that's an interesting term, but that is the term for what we call the most significant infiltration source. And in 25 years of doing this, I've never found 22 of them in 40,000 feet. It's typically you'll get maybe 5 or 10 in a significant effort. So that's good news because we're finding the results, or we're finding answers to the problems. Just here's a couple pictures. I hope you can, it doesn't look like you can see them real well, but this is what it looks like when you have a gusher. So this is where creek water or storm water is entering into a sewer pipe. And you could take everything I said today and you could sum it up right here. This is the evidence that shows that we have an infiltration inflow problem that's competing with Baxter's desire to continue to grow. Based on our experience in doing these for 25 years, on top of the data that we already have, we think that Baxter needs to rehabilitate 50% of their collection system. And again, as I said, with 72,000 feet, that is not an incredibly daunting task. If we were talking about 600,000 feet, this would be a decade-long process. But because it's small, I believe from what we know today, we can make significant inroads very quickly for Baxter. To do that, I'm recommending that the city establish a budget of $4 million to complete this work. Again, that's 50% of their system. And so I really wanted to just kind of show you what we already have thought about or what we already have in the works in terms of the priority and where this funding request fits into that. So Baxter currently has a rehabilitation project under construction, and that project is just shy of $715,000. That project will be completed late this year. The second priority is why we're here, and that is to do a project with Baxter's TDEC ARP funds. And if you can see, Baxter's is allocated $722,955. The request tonight is for $1,300,000 contribution to that project. And then because it's a collaboration project, the local match becomes 10% or $202,000, bringing a total project cost of $2,225,250. And then the third project is not yet in the works. The city has submitted for funding request to the Appalachian Regional Commission for $1 million, and that has a Baxter local participation of $500,000. So just to summarize those projects, we've got a total of $3,939,905 currently in some form of conceptual phase, or in the case of the first priority, it's under construction. And to close, what I was wanting to just bring to you tonight, Baxter, it really begs the question, well, what about the wastewater plant? What about the additional work? So Baxter's actually currently in design for what we call phase 1 wastewater treatment plant expansion. That's what you see up there at the top. So that project is funded with USDA. It's in design phase. Total project cost of $3 million and a completion date of 2023. And then the phase 2 wastewater treatment plant, to accommodate for the development that's happening there, Baxter will need to begin the process of a second expansion of their wastewater plant, which the preliminary matters have already started on that with the state. and we're anticipating 5 to 7 years to implement that project. And that cost will be, we don't know what that is yet, but it will be significant compared to that first phase. So I think the point there is to say Baxter is, they've got a lot on their plate as far as funding this. And I know that John would express, as all of us would, that they certainly could use some assistance towards funding the rehabilitation of the sewer system to accommodate for the growth that they have and accommodate for the growth that we don't even know yet. And so with that said, I'm going to turn that back to John, and then also we can field any questions.
I just want to confirm what Baxter's asking of us. They're asking that you partner with them on one of those TDEC projects. We got the 4.9 million that you just approved the 1.8 for the Martin Creek project. They're asking you to partner on a project of 1.3 million that they would pay the match for, that there would be no county funds involved. We would be applying for TDEC to approve it. If it is approved, TDEC would pay 90% of the cost. Baxter would pick up the 10% cost, and there'd be no county funds involved in it. So I just want to make sure everybody's clear about what they're asking of you tonight.
Folks, if you can, even though there's something up there, I can see those who want to speak. So please use so I can be consistent in who I call on. And I'd like for clarity, if I could just understand, the partnering at this time, Mayor, is not any funds from Putnam County? What are we pledging? I'm sorry.
You're giving us the authority to partner with Baxter for those TDEC funds that they're putting down. The state is. We get 4.9 million roughly, and those are funds that we would apply to TDEC for. They're all state funds. We would normally have to match that. Baxter is willing to pay the match of 10%, so there'd be no county funds involved. We would just be partnering with them to apply for the money.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Wilson.
A couple questions. You mentioned earlier that the first increase in property tax was going to be about 1 million, expecting that to go up to 2 million when you got up to the 1,600. Did you take into consideration any commercial properties, or was this just residential?
That's only residential.
Okay, so the commercial will be on top of that.
That's correct.
Okay. Next question, how many feet of expansion are you talking about, including the replacement of the clay tiles in addition in total? How much additional expansion are you looking at? Footage?
None.
No additional expansion?
Maybe I'm not understanding your question.
Portobello is going, we've already let the contract for all the water and sewer for Portobello.
Right.
So we'll be doing all of that. But as far as what we're asking now, it's rehabilitation of what lines we have now to stop the infiltration going into our system.
Okay.
But no other expansion. We don't have any plan for that except for industry. And we're going to have more of that.
Okay, that's all I have.
Jordan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mayor Porter, are we looking at a motion tonight of any kind, or I know, like Mayor Martin was saying, we've all been saying it too. There's a tremendous amount of growth going on down there in the western part of the county, especially in Baxter. So I think we wouldn't serve ourselves and especially serve them well if we don't help them on that. So I would like to make that motion that we go ahead and help them with partnering on this project.
Yes, sir, and the motion should be that you would approve Putnam County partnering with Baxter City to apply to TDEC for an amount of 1.3 million for this sewer project, with Baxter picking up the 10% match.
Absolutely. That is my motion to partner with them.
I'll second that.
I'll second that.
All right, motion and a second, so we'll continue the discussion. And Mr. Neal, were you through, Jordan?
Yes, I am.
Thank you very kindly, Mr. Neal.
Well, Jordan kind of got in front of me there a little bit. I was going to go ahead and make that motion. I think this is a priority for not only Baxter, but for Putnam County. And I think that we'd be remiss if we didn't use these additional funds that we have for this project. So I just hope that we've got the support here to move forward with this, because I know Mayor Martin has done a lot of work with this. And I want to say congratulations to Mayor Martin for the job that he has done in Baxter. And I'm just proud to be associated with the community down there.
All right, Mr. Cassidy.
Mr. Bennett, you've used the word rehabilitation several times.
Right.
Are we talking about replacing, or are we talking about doing something like slip lining or
Yes.
all of the above?
Well, I think we definitely can say that we would start with in situ rehabilitation, such as slip lining, pipe bursting, with the least preferred alternative being dig and replace. So, and that's it's the most bang for your buck. So we always start with pipe bursting, then down to slip lining, and then dig and replace.
There will be a lot of replacement.
Mr. Bennett.
Yes, this question's for Mayor Porter. What kind of issues we're going to have if we vote to give this money to the city of Baxter, then Monterey comes to us, Allgood or Cookville, wanting a part of that same 4.9 million? What do we tell them?
That'd be up to you, Mr. Bennett. I think you're going to see at least one of those come to you about a water project that's going to affect all of us, but I haven't heard from the other two entities. I think you have to look at where the growth is, and it's all towards Baxter. But I would hope the commission will be open to any of the other cities coming to you also. But right now, this is the only one that's come to you and asked for you anything.
Now, we have already approved, I think, a little over $500,000 for the water tank to help Cookville put water up on Brotherton Mountain.
That was all good.
Okay, all good, but for Brotherton Mountain.
We've approved two projects for all good already. You'll be approving this one for Baxter, so the only two left would be Cookville and Monterey, should they ask for something.
Have you heard anything out of those two cities?
Cookville is looking at a project. I'll wait and see if that makes it to the commission or not, but they have several things that they're looking at on their ARP funds. They may ask you to partner with them, and you'll still have, this is going to be 3.1 million. You still have about 1.8 million left in those TDEC funds, even after you do this, if you approve it.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Navio.
Commissioner Bennett adjusted my point early on. Thank you.
Any other questions or discussion? We do have a motion on the floor. We have a second. Any more discussion about it? Favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Wow, congratulations, Baxter. It does pass.
Mr. Chairman, that
Thank you
concludes
so much.
Fiscal Review Committee.
Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Very kindly. Nominating.
The nominating committee recommends a request to reappoint to the following to the awards board committee for 2 years for a term to expire in February of 2024. And those names are Kim Bradford and Cindy Adams.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion or nominations from the floor? Favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The motion carries.
That concludes the awards board. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Report of special committees. Any reports? Resolutions?
No resolutions, Mr. Chairman.
I bet you got some notaries.
I got a bunch tonight. Daniel G. Agee, Patricia S. Arnold, Melinda Brewington, Casey D. Brown, Betty Cook, Hope Dalen, Dawson Davidson, Catherine A. Donnelly, Eliza Fields, Jocelyn Galvis, that's true, Robbie Green, Shelley Haggard, Heather Haley, Sharon R. Holderman, Jill Hogmast, Lee F. Hunter, Tamara E. Jackson, Jessica Martinez, Halea S. Newberry, Lindsay Nijo, Morgan Justin Phelps, Lacey A. Pyland, M. Sadie Puckett, Amanda Randolph, Cody Smith, Michelle Sweet, James B. Turnbow, Lauren Wilson, Hillary Wilson, and lastly, Ashley E. Young.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second, and again, just for information for our visitors, we're required to vote this on a roll call. So, Mr. Clerk?
Ladies and gentlemen, take your handsets. If you favor the motion, vote yes. If you not favor the motion, vote no. Everyone, please vote yes. Get that? Mr. Moss. Ah, yes. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Just taking care of that. Mr. Chairman, you have 20 voting yes, 0 no, 4 absent. The roll is called. Motion carries on the notaries.
Other new business, Recognize county road list and road inventories presented by road supervisor. Anybody have any discussion or questions about the road list? Yes, sir, Mr. Jonathan.
I just wanted to use this opportunity to reiterate the point that I made a few meetings ago about the duplication of road names. I know these are set, nothing we can do about it, but just kind of remind everyone of the necessity to change our plan going forward.
And I think we've put things in place that have addressed that. So thank you again, sir. Item number 2 is ratification of the county mayor Randy Porter's selection for the budget committee for 2022 and 2023 budget year. Do you have a list? Do you have a list with you? Everybody can receive a list. His suggestions are Mike Atwood, Kathy Dunn, Chris Cassidy, Jim Martin, Ben Rogers, Dale Moss, Grover Bennett Jr., Kim Bradford, and Jonathan Williams. Any questions or discussions? Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, you know I called you, and also, Mr. Mayor, I emailed you. And I'd really like to know, what is the criteria to be on this committee? Because I have tried several times, and I'm very disappointed. I'm sure there's others. But I notice it's pretty much the same people. And if you know me, you know what kind of business I'm in. I know budgets, I know how to manage people, and I felt that I would really be very comparable for this opportunity. So I'd really like to know, what is the criteria to be on this committee?
Mr. Alonzo, it's a tough decision every year. I always have a lot more people that want on the committee than what there can be. I set my own little policy to start with that it only put one person per district. I wouldn't put 2 commissioners from the same district. A lot of you have served on the budget committee. A lot of it has to do with experience when it comes to county commission and been on budget committees before. I try to do the very best I can. I didn't ask for this job to appoint this committee. It's set, and I do, and I try to do the very best I can. I sure it's nothing personal. I try to do accommodate as many people as I can, but I always tell you every year, I would love to see all of you come to the budget committee. That's where all of the budgets come up and all the requests, and we will, if everybody would come, we'd have the budget committees upstairs in the county commission room where everybody can hear it. I just think it's something that everybody should be involved in, regardless of whether you serve on the committee. Come to them and be a part of it, because your thoughts and options can be heard. So I'm sorry that you feel that way, but I do the very best job I can.
Still disappointed.
Okay. Any other questions or discussion about the budget committee?
To that comment, sir, on attending the budget committee meetings, are those going to be put out in email, just like the commission meetings are?
Yes, sir. They'll be posted out to you. Y'all get a notice on them, and they're also published in the newspaper and radio stations, just like we do a regular meeting.
Thank you so much.
Okay. So we need to ratify these names. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those favor the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those no.
Aye.
Motion carries. Also, item number 3 kind of speaks to your question. We will be approving a budget calendar, which you should have with you. It does stipulate exactly how the budget process works in the months that certain things happen. So you take that to heart. We need to approve that as well.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve the calendar. Any discussion or questions on the calendar? Favor the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Those no, say no. All right, motion carries. Item number 4 is recognize the reappointment of David Matson to the Cookville Boat Dock Utility District Board.
Second.
I don't think we need to vote. We just need to recognize, I believe, what it says. So that has the appointment of the mayor as well.
Yeah, there's no motion.
Is that correct?
Yeah, no motion or second.
So there is no motion to be.
There's not.
I'll rescind that second.
Okay. Just so that you'll know, I think that's a FYI. Okay. Any announcements or statements? Let me say, folks, Mayor and I have discussed, and we will be moving back to the courthouse for the March meeting, and hopefully we'll be able to reside there for a while. There's a lot of things going from this point on as it relates to elections, and this building's probably going to get a lot of use, if I had to guess about it. So the decision has been made that at least for March, we're going back to the courthouse. Yes, sir.
I would like to welcome Siobhan Eldridge and Fred Vondra, two our newly elected county commissioners, are here visiting the meeting tonight. They were elected for Districts 1 and District 3.
Welcome. Glad to have you. Sorry, I didn't recognize. Thank you. I appreciate it. All right. Anything else?
Will the meetings be like they are now, that we do the committee meetings at 5:30 and then the other, we're going to continue that?
Absolutely. Nothing will change.
Perfect.
We'll do it exactly. It's all on the same night. We made that decision for the entire year.
Just want to make sure nothing's changed.
Sure. I understand. I appreciate the question. Anybody else? Any other questions? Folks, thanks for coming. I'd like to thank the Mayor Baxter and the report that you made to us, and we look forward to working with you. And other than that, folks, we stand adjourned.